Story 1. The Night Delivery. When I was 15, I worked part-time at a local pizza place called Sal's Slice on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a way to make some cash after school. Most nights were quiet, boring even. But one Friday night in late October changed everything. It was around 10 p.m. when my manager tossed me an order slip, a large pepperoni for someone named Diane, out on Hollow Creek Road. I knew that area, barely. It was one of those neighborhoods where the streetlights were more suggestion than light, and the houses sat far back from the road, like they were trying to hide. I grabbed my jacket, hopped in my beat-up Honda Civic, and headed out. The GPS took me down roads I'd never driven before. Narrow, winding, lined with dead oaks that scraped the sky like broken fingers. My headlights barely cut through the dark. The radio kept cutting in and out, which I told myself was just the hills messing with the signal. When I finally pulled up to the address, I sat in the car for a second. The house was small, older than it had any right to be. A single light flickered behind a curtain on the ground floor, casting a pale yellow glow across the dead front lawn. The kind of light that doesn't make a place look lived in, it makes it look watched. I grabbed the box, walked up the cracked stone path, and was just about to knock when a voice shot out from the darkness to my left. Hey you, over here." I spun around, heart hammering. An older woman, maybe late 60s, was leaning over the fence from the neighboring property, waving me down. She had a thick wool coat on, and her white hair was loose around her shoulders. "That order's not for that house, sweetheart," she said, nodding toward the door behind me. "It's for me, next door. I must have put in the wrong address. I'm sorry." I laughed nervously, more relief than anything, and walked over to her side of the fence. But before I could hand her the box, she smiled and said, "Come inside for a second. I need to get my purse. And my friend Marlene's here too. We've been waiting on this all night." I hesitated. Everything in me said no. But she was old. She seemed harmless, and it was cold out. I told myself it would take 30 seconds. It took longer than 30 seconds. The inside of the house was dim and warm, but wrong in a way I couldn't name. The furniture was old-fashioned, the walls covered in framed photos, but every single photo was turned slightly away from center, like someone had bumped them all and never fixed them. The air smelled like candle wax, and something else underneath. Something sour. Marlene was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. Wide. Too wide. The kind of smile that doesn't match someone's eyes. "Oh, he's young," she said to the older woman, whose name I still didn't know. "Isn't he young, Bev?" Bev. The older woman's name was Bev. They started talking to me in this strange, overlapping way, finishing each other's sentences, laughing at things that weren't funny. I set the pizza box on the counter and said I needed to get the payment and head out. Bev waved me off. In a minute. We want to show you something first." "There's something downstairs," Marlene added, "in the basement. You'll want to see it, trust me." The word basement hit me like cold water. "I'm good, thank you," I said, already backing toward the door. But somehow, and I still can't fully explain this, I ended up at the top of the basement stairs. I don't remember walking there. One moment I was near the front door. The next, I was standing at the edge of that darkness, looking down. The steps were wooden and old. and the light below was almost non-existent, just a faint gray, like the absence of dark rather than actual light. Bev was right behind me. "Just at the bottom," she whispered. "It'll only take a second." And that's when I heard it, a sound from below. Not a voice, not footsteps, something shifting, slow and deliberate, like something large adjusting its weight in the dark. Every hair on my body stood up. I don't know what came over me, but I turned around, pushed past Bev, harder than I meant to, and walked fast toward the front door. She called after me. Marlene said something from the kitchen. I didn't hear the words. I had the door open, and I was outside, and the cold night air hit my face like a slap. I got to my car, locked the doors, sat there shaking for a full minute before I could even get the key in the ignition. I drove back to the shop and told my manager I didn't feel well. I never collected the payment for that delivery. I never went back to Hollow Creek Road. I quit that job 3 weeks later. I don't know what was in that basement. I've told myself 100 different things over the years. A dog, a furnace, old pipes settling in the cold. But none of those explanations ever made the memory stop feeling the way it feels. Like I almost didn't make it back. Story 2. The Woman on Route 9. I was 16 when it happened, and I still can't drive through a storm without checking my mirrors twice. It was a Tuesday night in November. I'd picked up a shift at the pizza place, even though the weather had been looking ugly all day. By 8 p.m., the rain was coming down hard, the kind that turns your windshield into a wall of water, no matter how fast the wipers go. My manager almost called off deliveries, but we had 3 orders backed up, and he was short-staffed, so he looked at me and said, "You good?" I said, "Yes." I wasn't. The last delivery of the night took me out on Route 9, a long stretch of 2-lane road that cuts through a patch of woods about 6 miles outside of town. No houses out there, no gas stations, nothing. Just trees on both sides, and the occasional guardrail where the road bends close to the creek. I was about 4 miles in when my headlights caught something in the road. I hit the brakes hard. The car fishtailed slightly on the wet asphalt before I got it under control. My heart was already in my throat. There was a woman standing in the middle of my lane. Not on the shoulder, not waving from the side of the road. In the middle of my lane, maybe 40 feet ahead, completely still. She was soaked through. Her dark hair was plastered flat against her face. She wore a light-colored dress, completely wrong for the weather, and she wasn't moving, not even when my headlights flooded over her. Most people, when a car nearly hits them, they jump back, they raise their hands, they react. She didn't react at all. I rolled down my window a few inches, rain immediately spraying in across my arm. "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" Nothing. She just stood there, head tilted down slightly, water running off her in sheets. I looked around. No other cars, no lights anywhere through the trees, no skid marks on the road, no vehicle pulled over. Nothing to explain why she was out here. "Ma'am, I can give you a ride, or I can call someone." A flash of lightning broke across the sky. In that half-second of white light, I saw her face clearly for the first time. She was smiling, not a relieved smile, not the smile of someone who's scared and grateful help arrived. It was slow and wide and completely out of place, the smile of someone who knew something I didn't. Her eyes were open and fixed directly on me, and they were utterly empty. Like the lights were on and no one was home. The thunder hit a second later. I rolled up my window. I don't remember making the decision. My foot just moved to the gas pedal, and I steered around her, giving her as wide a berth as the lane allowed. As I passed, I glanced in my side mirror. She had turned to watch me go, still smiling, still completely still in the rain. I drove the remaining 2 miles to the delivery address in maybe 90 seconds. I don't remember handing over the pizza. I don't remember the drive back to the shop. I just remember sitting in the parking lot afterward, engine running, unable to get out of the car. When I finally told my coworker what happened, he laughed and said I probably saw a mannequin someone had dumped on the road. Or maybe a drunk woman from one of the houses deeper in the woods. Maybe. I've held on to that explanation for years, because it's the only one that lets me sleep. But I've driven Route 9 exactly once since that night. Daytime, clear weather, windows up. And when I passed that stretch of road, I slowed down without meaning to and looked at the spot where she'd been standing. There was nothing there, just wet asphalt and tree line. But I checked my mirror 3 times before I sped up again. I still do. Story 3. The house at the end of Deller Road. I was 17 the night I almost didn't make it home. It was a slow Wednesday at the shop, mid-January, the kind of cold that makes the whole town feel abandoned. Around 9:30 p.m., a single order came in. Large cheese, 1 address, 4 Deller Road. I didn't recognize the street, so I punched it into my phone and watched the GPS route me out, past the edge of town, down a road I'd genuinely never noticed before. My coworker Danny glanced at the address slip and made a face. Deller Road? That's way out there, man. How far? Far enough that I wouldn't go tonight, he said. Then he smiled, like he was joking. I told myself he was joking. The drive took nearly 20 minutes. The road narrowed as I went, trees pressing in close on both sides, branches low enough to scrape the roof of my car in a few spots. No streetlights, no other houses. My GPS lost signal twice and rerouted me both times, adding minutes I hadn't planned for. When I finally reached number 4, I sat in the driveway with the engine running for a long moment. The house was 2 stories, old white paint gone gray, a covered porch that sagged on one side. Every window was dark except one, a downstairs room to the left of the front door, where a dim light moved behind the curtain. Not a lamp, something that flickered. A candle, maybe. The front door was open, not wide open, maybe 6 inches, swaying slightly in the wind, which made no sense in January. I grabbed the box, told myself it would take 30 seconds, and walked up to the porch. The boards groaned under my feet. I knocked on the door frame and called out, "Hello? Pizza delivery. I have an order for this address?" Silence. Then, from somewhere deep inside the house, a voice. "Come in, dear. I can't get up." Old. Female. Calm in a way that felt rehearsed. Every instinct I had told me to set the box down and leave. But she sounded frail, genuinely unable to move. And I was 17, and didn't yet fully trust my instincts over my guilt. So I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air hit me first, thick and stale, like the house hadn't been ventilated in months. The hallway was dark, wallpaper peeling in long strips, a narrow staircase to my right, disappearing up into blackness. The flickering light came from a room at the end of the hall. I walked toward it. She was sitting in an armchair facing the door, hands folded in her lap. A single candle on the side table next to her. She looked ancient, deeply lined face, white hair pulled back, dressed in layers despite the stuffiness of the room. She smiled when she saw me. "I've been waiting," she said. "Yes, ma'am. Sorry for the wait. Here's your order." I held out the box. "That'll be $14.50. She tilted her head slowly. "Sit with me a while first." "I really can't. I have to get back. Just for a moment." Her voice didn't change tone. It never changed tone. "My grandson will be down shortly. He'd love to meet you." Something about the way she said it stopped me cold. Not the words. The way she was already looking past me when she said them, toward the staircase behind me. I turned around. At the top of the stairs, in the darkness, something moved. A shape. Tall, standing completely still, watching me from the shadows at the top of the landing. I couldn't make out a face. I couldn't make out anything clearly, just the outline of someone standing there who had not made a single sound coming down those stairs. "There he is," the old woman said softly behind me. The shape moved. One step down, then another. I dropped the pizza box and ran. I hit the front door with my shoulder, burst through the porch, cleared the steps in one jump, and ran across the dead grass to my car. I got the door open, got the engine started, reversed down the driveway so fast I nearly went into the ditch on the opposite side of the road. I didn't look back at the house. I couldn't. I drove straight back to the shop, walked in, and told Danny I wasn't finishing my shift. He took one look at my face and didn't argue. I called the non-emergency police line that night from my bedroom. Told them there was an occupied house at 4 Deller Road with what looked like a disturbance. They said they'd send someone to check. 2 days later, I worked up the nerve to ask if anything had come of it. The officer I spoke to paused before answering. "We went out there," he said. "House was empty. Has been for a while, looks like." I didn't say anything. "You sure about the address?" he asked. I told him I was sure. He said, "Okay," and that was the end of it. I've never been able to explain the order slip, or the voice, or the candle burning in an empty house. And I've never been able to explain the shape at the top of those stairs, the one that took 2 steps down before I ran. I think about it most on slow winter nights, when the shop is quiet, and a single order comes in for an address I don't recognize. I always let someone else take it now.